Jamie Dornan, thank you for being my guest. We're here in the Lyric Theatre in Belfast, the premier theatre in Northern Ireland. You haven't trodden the boards here for a long, long, long time. Tell us about that adventure way back in the distant past.
I've only trodden the boards here once, and it was 19 years ago. And we were doing Chekhov, Cherry Orchard. I don't really know what role I played. I think I was a waiter or something. I just remember, like a servant or something. I just walked around offering people drinks, I think. But I felt like I was on stage quite a lot. I mean, I think I probably played a few different roles. That was, it was a long time ago.
Does Jamie Dornan have a philosophy in life?
I guess I subscribe somewhat to the idea of that school of you only live once, a version of that probably, and that life is for living, and that, you know, you have to enjoy yourself and take a lot of risks. And but then your sort of life ideas change when you become a parent. I think the whole idea of what life is and what it means and why we're all here and all those sort of big scary questions, that all goes out the window when you have a kid. It all just turns everything on its head. So I think it's dangerous to fully subscribe to one total way of living, because I think we all know that anything can happen and massive events change your plan if you have one, and I just sort of take it as it comes, really.
Do you ever think about death?
No, when I was younger, I used to be quite ignorant to death, and I was sort of openly sort of unafraid of it, and I would say that. I would say, I'm not afraid of dying, you know. I sort of didn't want to live my life that way, and I still feel that to a point. I don't want to be someone who's fearful of the idea of it. But again, when you become a parent, you aren't going to take sort of physical risks that could, you know, induce death. I'm not going to jump out of a plane. I probably would have wanted to do that before I became a father. I'm not going to do that now. And I think about it much less now, but when I was younger, based on events and things that happened, I guess it was more in my consciousness. And, but I try not to think about it too often.
Death visited your home almost 20 years ago, in fact 20 years ago this July, when your very young mum died. You were just 16. What sort of an impact has that death had on you?
Truth be told, I think I'm still sort of finding that out. I think grief is a bizarre concept and feeling, and it's very powerful, and it creeps up on you, and even 20 years on it'll creep up on you. And that, they say, that thing of grief, it comes in waves, and I truly believe that, but I don't think it comes in waves just in the immediacy of the death. I think it you know, 20 years on, I'll have days where it'll just smack me around the face. Again, I think having 2 kids has an impact on that. So I think the impact it had on me is forever evolving, and now watching my wife be a mother and both my sisters being mothers, and seeing the role a mother plays in young lives, and then realising that you know, I didn't have that for a section of my my youth. It's a big thing. It felt like a big thing at the time, obviously, and it was a horrendous time in my life, and you're never over it.
Do you keep the memories of your mummy alive in your little children as they are now beginning to grow up?
Yep, very much so. We have pictures of my mum around our house, and we're forever telling both my kids, well, our youngest is not even 2 yet, so it's tricky for her, but our 4-year-old asks questions about her all the time, and I think it's only right that we do that. She is their grandmother, and we want them to know that. So yeah, it's something that's very important to me and both my sisters, I think.
Jim, as a doctor, though, do you think that you were more sanguine, that you had a greater capacity to accept the cross visited upon you when you lost your wife, Laura?
I do think it allowed me to to see. I mean, I knew what I was being prepared for, and I was able to prepare the family for, at that time, what was inevitable. Lorna was wonderful. I mean, she was tremendous. And we had, it was a tough journey for us both, for us all. But even that, I think she was grateful for knowing the facts as they were. Although she did go through her year and a half with great hope.
What traits did you inherit, do you think, from your mum?
I try to ask myself that quite often. The answer still escapes me. I think my mum was a creative person. And my dad is, as you know, is a creative person himself, but found himself in I feel like my dad's been quite creative in an industry where it doesn't allow for a lot of creativity at times, and that's bothered him a lot in the world of medicine. But my mum wanted to go to art school and got accepted to art school, and went away for summer, I think, and then came back and just go to art school, and her parents had cancelled the application and had enrolled her into nurse college, so they made that decision for her, and that grated on my mother her whole life, you know, and she continued to draw and paint throughout our childhood, and probably the only A's I ever got for my art were actually done by my mum. I probably should admit that, but yeah, so I thought maybe something about me being in a creative industry I took from my mother.
Did you inherit your good looks from your mother at the expense of your father suing me?
I mean, Dad will just not like that question at all. My mother was a beautiful, beautiful woman, and yeah, my dad. The amount of people that come up to me in Belfast and take great pleasure in telling me that I'm nowhere near as handsome as my father. I've had that a lot.
Your father, Jim Dornan, is a well-known gynecologist obstetrician. He's zestful, brimful of energy, irrepressible, larger-than-life character.
Yep.
In fact, I think he had aspirations to being an actor himself.
He did.
Now, what has he imparted to you from your outlook on life, etc.?
Positivity. He's the most unwaveringly positive person I've ever met in my entire life, and I ever will meet in my entire life. He's just has this outlook, and God, look, he's been through it too. I mean, he lost his wife at 50. They're both 50. And
he's had cancer?
He's had cancer. He's in remission from that. Basically, every version of Dad ends with positivity. That's all I can say. I mean, he will turn every negative into positive instantly. And there's not that many people, certainly that I've met, and I feel like I'm pretty well-travelled at a relatively young age, and I've met a lot of people, that I've never met anyone that has that in spades. He says when he walks into any room, no matter what room it is, he feels that he's the youngest person there. I think that's just a brilliant ethos to carry into a room. It gets him into trouble probably sometimes, and sometimes it ends with, I don't know, you know, embarrassing situations for me as a son when I'm with him, if he's in that mindset. But just the most positive, joyful person that I know.
You dropped out of university. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a done thing necessarily against your backdrop, middle class, Methodist College, Belfast, mm-hmm. your contemporaries driving forward. Mm-hmm. Do you ever regret dropping out?
I mean, no, absolutely not, no. I wasn't, for starters, I was a terrible pupil. I wasn't particularly academic at school at all. In fact, it was almost the opposite. I didn't do well at school, I didn't do well in my exams. But I didn't do any work, and I literally didn't. I don't know why that was, and my dad was forever trying to get me to focus more at school and to get good grades, and his parents had done the same with him, even though he wanted a sort of fancier life of you know, playing and acting and whatever it was he wanted to do. It was drilled into him that he had to get good grades, and Dad did try to impart that on all of us, and I just wasn't up for that.
Yeah, but you say you weren't a good student and you didn't give much attention to what you did. How can you explain then your capacity to hold your lines together, to impart lines fluently in various accents and languages, etc. There seems to be contradiction there almost. Have you strong memory?
Not particularly strong memory, I don't think. I think the thing is, if it's something that I want to learn about, the part I enjoy most about being an actor is the research and getting, getting your nails dirty and digging into the lives of these people that you're portraying and the time of which you're portraying and doing all that research, and to do it all and then just to try to forget it and leave it all behind when you hear action, because you don't want to be your head filled with all that stuff. So when it's something that I want to learn about and I want to focus on, I'll be the most focused person in the world. I just at school and at university just had zero interest in what they were trying to get me to focus on.
You left Belfast in 2001. That's a long time ago.
Yes.
And a lot of things have happened in your life since then. When you come back here, you're virtually a prisoner in your own city. You just can't walk around, can you? Somebody's going to be asking for an autograph, a photograph, or wanting to speak with you. Do you find that a bit irksome?
Yeah, I do a wee bit. I do here. It's worse here than anywhere else in the world for me personally. It's a. I guess here, if you're in the public eye and you're from here, you've gone away and done whatever, and you're recognisable, people feel that they have a sort of an ownership of you almost here, and where if you get recognised, say in your pub or something, and you're in London or you're in New York or Berlin, anywhere, and someone recognises you, they come up and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, excuse me, would you mind, I'm a big fan, can I, But in Belfast, you're in a headlock before you know it. Someone's just grabbed you, they're taking a picture without asking you, and once they finally release you from a headlock, then it's like, they invariably know someone. It's like 2 degrees of separation here as opposed to 6. It's usually, sure, your dad delivered my kids, or or you're my second cousin or something, like we're distantly related. So that is tricky for me here, I find, and I don't get to spend a great deal of time at Belfast anymore. That upsets me a little bit, because I do love it here, but it's more manageable. That side of things more manageable when I'm not here.